All right, here's 305. Welcome to the Create App Accelerator workshop number 1. My name is Sarah Sadouk. I'm a member of the Create App Championship Committee, and I'm delighted to welcome you once again this week. Congratulations once again for making it to the Accelerator program. We received so many applications, so it's a privilege for me to welcome you for this webinar. Last week, you had the pleasure to hear from one of the key industry leader. And this week, we are welcoming Mr. Baber Sheikh, who is someone you're going to be learning a lot from today. So for those who are not familiar with Karim, Karim is one of the super app made in Dubai and expanded to the region. And I'm delighted to introduce you to its Chief Technology Officer, Baber Sheikh, who has over 20 years of experience in engineering leadership, product innovation. He worked for the world's most recognized tech companies, such as NVIDIA, GeForce Now, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Microsoft. And he's been leading Karim's technology and engineering team. And he's been instrumental in transforming the company from ride-hailing app to true everything app. Karim, in short, essentially, it was first taking us from one place to another. It was like the Uber of the region. And then I will let Baber tell you about the story, because today it's one of the super app of the region. So it offers services like food delivery, grocery, digital payment across the entire region. And Baber Sheikh is one of the leading figure behind the development of this app. Baber holds a degree in computer science, an executive MBA in technology, and he's also a patent holder, and he received many awards. So welcome to you, Baber. We are delighted, and I'm personally thrilled to have you on this call. And the floor is yours. Thank you.
What an absolute pleasure. I hope, first of all, everybody can hear me. Right? Everybody's good? Okay, sometimes there's a little echo. If you hear, if there's some audio, just go ahead, ping me, or go from there. Alhamdulillah, what a joy to be with this room. Funny thing is, I remember my early ages. So, I actually grew up in a city called Rawalpindi in Pakistan, and then I ended up at University of Toronto in the 90s. In 95, I think I was at University of Toronto, and then in the late 90s, joined Microsoft to work on a product called Hotmail. And at that time, you guys are way too young, but Hotmail was one of the early email solution for customers. And we started in working on something called MSN Messenger and MSN Chat and a bunch of online products. And we were going to see how all of this kind of evolves. And for me, it was a joy to be at the company at its early days, especially the Bill Gates years. And from there, moved to a company called Groupon post-IPO. And then more recently, NVIDIA in 2015, when they were largely a chip company and moving from chip to AI. And so I was blessed to be there from 2015 to 2020, and then joined Careem as it was acquired by Uber in 2020. And then we set a vision for the company to go from a ride-hailing company to what we call an everything, everyday, everything app, or a super app. And inshallah, I'll kind of walk you through that journey. For me, it is super inspiring to be with you all, because when I see young people such as yourself, and I see people who are motivated, eager to take on this challenge, to build something of value in 45 days, it reminds me of early days of Careem. I don't know if most of you guys know, but when Careem was built, it was built in Ramadan in 2012. And Mudassar, who was a founder, along with Magnus, who was a co-founder, these two people made a decision that they were going to put something out there in 30 days. And whatever it was going to be, 30 days, they were going to put an application out there, and they were going to quickly iterate and learn. From that point onwards to now being, a company that operates from Morocco to Pakistan, reaching 600 million, an audience of 600 million people. It's been quite a journey at the company. But everything started exactly what I find all of you in this call today. So first, I'm deeply inspired by your drive, your motivation, your commitment, and inshallah, I'm excited to see what comes out of this workshop and the impact you guys will have. If it's okay, let me share my screen and I'll kind of walk you through, and then we'll talk about our journey as an application. And my goal will be to kind of talk not just on the evolution of the client, not only the evolution of the mobile client, but also the back end that powers it. So we'll kind of see both how the systems kind of evolved and the client evolved. So bear with me. Let me go ahead. And is it okay if I share? You good to
Yes,
go?
it's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay, can everybody see my screen? So
Tell me
here we
in
are.
the chat if you can see it.
Good. So here we are, guys, much like you, 2012. And Kareem was launched with a dream to build something big and meaningful. And that was, I think, the primary motivation of the company was not just about the technology, but the problems we were going to solve. And very early on, a mission or a purpose for the company was set that we were going to simplify and improve the lives of people and build an awesome organization that inspires. I want you to envision this. I want you to envision an empty office, one chair, one desk, one telephone, and a laptop, and two guys looking at each other and setting this purpose and setting this vision for themselves. This is where the company starts. In 2012, we launched Rides. Between 2013 to 2019, we expanded in the region. In 2019, now 7 years later, from that office with two guys dreaming big, the company was the largest acquisition in the region. Right? At 3.1 billion, Uber opted to acquire. Now, Uber acquires in 2019. You also know by 2020, COVID launches, and you don't know at that point if you're going to survive or not as a company. And a decision is made early on to pivot and to think even bigger beyond rides, because you knew how to move people from point A to point B. So tomorrow you could move goods from point A to point B. And so you see an evolution of the company entering food, grocery, fintech, because you build all these wallet capabilities and you realize that this wallet can now be extended to provide, financial services to your customers. And in 2023, Etisalat, one of the world's biggest telecom, made a $400 million investment into Kareem to continue growing out this super app vision the company has set. This is us today. And you think about from bikes to taxis to car rentals, everything happens. If you want to move in our region or in Dubai from point A to point B, hopefully you choose Kareem to get there. Naturally, if you have the capability to do logistics, you extend that logistics capability to deliver food and grocery, and you see an extension of highly correlated services that begin to take place. You've built an intelligent wallet. That wallet then begins to extend where you can do bills, you can do recharge, you can do remittances. All of that goodness begins to happen. We operate in 10 countries, 70 million customers, 3.5 million captains, 20 plus services. So that's the gist of the business and the inception of the company. But let's spend a little bit more time talking about the tech. Out of the 20 plus businesses, 11 of them are owned and operated by us. Kareem is powered by 800 microservices, 1,000 servers. We take billions of API calls. and we take updates to our production environment every 30 minutes. So I want you to think of this for a second, right? I want you to envision your experience on WhatsApp, and you're having a phone call with somebody or exchanging text messages with somebody, and imagine WhatsApp is taking updates every 30 minutes. What does it take? And how does that happen? Today, these changes go into production seamlessly. But that wasn't the case when we started. And I'll kind of talk about some of our learnings as we thought about the evolution of the application. I want to take a step back and share with you something why I keep on iterating that these 45 days, day one is the most important, because this will allow you to kind of set your technical strategy and your product strategy. I'm not sure if some of you have heard of something called 0 to 1 or 1 to 100. 0 to 1 really implies how you take a new idea from inception to market. 1 to 100 implies how you actually scale that idea more broadly. I want you to pause and take a step back and think of Microsoft. Microsoft this year celebrated their 50th anniversary. The company was originally launched in 76, if I recall correctly, 75 or 76. For the first 5 years, most people can't tell what Microsoft did. The reality is they spent a lot of time building programming languages. One of them eventually became BASIC or Visual Basic. So the first 5 years, the company tries to find itself. By the time the early 80s comes along, Windows 1.0 is released. And if you think about it, from 80 to 1995, 20 years later, the company has successfully launched Windows operating system and then has built an ecosystem. At Kareem, we follow a very similar mindset. We first entered into rides, a single product. We launched it in a single market in Dubai. We took that product and took it to multiple markets. So Qatar, Pakistan, Morocco, Egypt. Then we go from a single product to a multiple product. Think food delivery, grocery delivery, whatever the product might be. And you take multi-product, single market. So we built the Everything app, but we only launched it in Dubai. We learned, we iterated. And when we were ready, we began then iterating the Everything app into Oman, into Abu Dhabi. Slowly but surely, we said, okay, single product, single market, multiple product, single market, and then multiple product, multi-market. It's a very structured way of taking new products to market. Now, I want you to understand how difficult this is, because if you think of the world's top companies, how many companies have successfully launched more than one successful product? So I want you to think about it from Google, where predominantly their revenue comes from search and ads, even to this day. Facebook, which went out and then acquired Instagram and many other players. They had to kind of fend off, right? You have to learn how to have multiple businesses, multiple products, multiple revenue lines. Let me come back to you again. Today, you're going to come in, you're going to come up with an inception, you're going to develop a clear idea. That idea you're going to be very focused on, get that early feedback, iterate on that idea, make that idea successful in a single market, expand out to multiple markets, and then iterate and build out your portfolio. Inshallah, you guys have all the opportunity to become tomorrow's Microsoft. The formula is very clear. It's a matter of you understanding how you're going to approach this. With that, this is us. So this is Kareem 5 years ago. What you find is if everybody's used Uber or have you used similar products, you have the customer app. This is what you guys are going to be building on as you think through your experience. In this case, we have customers, they request a ride. We have a back-end service, a marketplace, which allows you to, connect customers with drivers or what we call captains. You share locations, you give them a route, you connect the two, you start a ride, you end a ride. And if there are any issues happen, you have care, so customer support, and then you have a captain application or the driver application. You're both in a two-way marketplace you're connecting. Notice we launched with a single product here. We're iterating, we're learning. As we iterate, this is Kareem 5 years after. Notice that the core marketplace gets extended. We built a very comprehensive platform. We built a digital commerce arm. And then you notice that other services begin to get powered. So let's look at this journey. 2019, we made a decision to launch the super app. This was our first attempt. In 2020, you see that we begin to iterate. The food service, the shops, some of the experiences first time begin to get integrated. 2021, you see the launch of groceries, and now you're beginning to have a wallet. By 2022, you see more services, third-party services coming on, tenants coming onto our service. And you see the more completion of the journey today on the right. So you notice it takes the company about 5 years to kind of iterate, to learn, to understand the customer. Today, this is us today, a fairly intelligent AI-powered application. You look at it from a visual or UX design. You look at it from a deep personalization or context awareness. You look at it from a service discovery or lifestyle bundling that we call highly correlated services. And notice that this application is not just us pushing an app to the mobile, to the app stores, but also much of the app is controlled by something called server-driven UI. So no longer do we have to deploy actually to an app store. When experiences light up, we're able to just do it from the back end and iterate on it. I'll stop right here and let me pause and open up for questions, because I feel like I covered quite a bit of ground and I want to kind of have an open dialogue, get your guys' question, and see what stands out and where I can be of assistance.
Thank you so very much for this presentation. I think it's what is very clear is that you went from one line of business to a super app in such a short period of time. And that what I really, really like is also that you and the founder of Kareem decided to launch the app within 30 days, which is much less than what we have today. We are setting the expectation, launch your MVP in 45 days, which is a good sign for them. They have time, right? They will be able to launch the MVP within 45 days.
I am confident. I'm confident. Great.
Okay. Well, before we jump into the question, I will ask you a couple of questions so the participant may be inspired by the question and maybe inspired to ask for question. For those who are behind the screen, feel free to either drop your question on the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and take the mic, you're also very welcome to do so. I see that Jeff Nelly already raised his hand. Okay, the floor. Yeah, Jeff.
Thank you so much. Please confirm if you can hear me.
If you want to introduce yourself and tell us from where you're dialing in.
Yeah, so my name is Jeff Nelly. I'm here with my team and we're building VoiceSplit, a financial automation platform for e-commerce entrepreneurs and dropshippers. But I'm not asking concerning my startup right now. It's concerning what you just said, which is really insightful. So for Kareem, the breakdown and everything you just listed from the inception, was all of this visualized? Was this like the initial plan, or as it's progressed, you're like, okay, let's add this, let's do this, because it's looking like, okay, it's here right now. It looks more organized, like, okay, from the beginning, they already knew what they wanted to accomplish. Or from the start, it was just like, okay, let's solve this one problem. And then as we grow and improve, okay, we're like, okay, let's bring this in, let's bring this in. Then how were you able to implement that you don't lose the first customer base that you built?
First of all, what a fantastic question, Jeff. Thank you for that. I can assure you that back in 2012, if you asked the founders, Mudassar or Magnus, what would the Kareem application look like? It wouldn't even come close. I come back to that, they originally came up with a vision, a mission that said, hey, we want to simplify the lives of people in our region. And they said, hey, what is the big problem in our region? They said transportation is a problem. Jeff, if you go to Cairo and you have to go from your home to work, it is common for people to take what we call multimodal. So you walk to the bus stop, you may take the bus from point A to point B, get off, you reconnect to another bus, get off, maybe take a taxi for a period, then walk, then get to work. Our region from Morocco to Pakistan, from North Africa to the Middle East, we saw a problem, and it was a genuine problem on the ground. We said, hey, transportation is a problem. And so when we first launched this app, it was strictly in mind for, okay, how are we going to solve transportation? And so the application, they knew that, hey, we needed to figure out that, hey, there are a lot of people that offer taxi service and customers in need. We got to connect the two. And that this was the experience that was going to be. But I promise you that from that first point where you actually had to pick up the phone and call Kareem. So I want you to think of 1-800-Kareem. You call them and they pick up and then they send a car to you, to an application that was developed, to integrated experiences that were developed. So most of the time you're learning. And this is why the 45-day milestone is so important, because you're trying to throw an idea out there and you're trying to iterate on that idea quickly. Because neither Jeff, you nor I have the answer. What we need to understand is what is the need in the market and how we're going to iterate on it. So at no point, even if I was to tell you in 2024, did we know what the app would be in 2025? The answer is no. Because as you iterate very quickly, as you beta test, as you experiment, you're learning and you're iterating and you're evolving. I hope that answered your question.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you so much, Oded.
Thank you.
Excellent
So
question.
there's a lot of human-centered design, understanding how people are doing things at the moment and what problem you can solve with your app. That's a great insight. It's always about the customer and the customer journey at the end of the day. Right. We have another question from Hamza. Dr. Hamza, if you want to introduce yourself. Actually, Dr. Hamza was one of the finalists of the Create App Championship. So it's a pleasure to have you here. Hamza, the floor is yours.
Thanks. And thanks for the inspiring presentation. We are delighted to have you today. And I have one question about your strategy to expand and scale up to other markets. So you mentioned that you started with one product at a single market, then multi-product products at the same market, and then you made a decision to expand to other markets. So does this strategy apply for every product? You suggest that this can apply, or maybe at some point or some factors we can, for example, start with one product and then expand to other markets before having multi products?
Again, no, actually, let me just iterate more precisely. I said single product, one market, single product, multi-market. Multiple products, single market, multiple products, multi-market. So notice that, remember, you're always having an experimentation mindset. So you say, okay, I'm going to focus in on a single product, single market, and a single product, and I'm going to zoom in. Now this product is ready. I believe in it. So now let me expand it to the rest of the world. Now I've created multiple products. Same strategy. Start with a single market, iterate on it, experiment on it, learn, and then expand and localize. So you're always centering back to your a single market, a single experimentation set. I'll put something in the chat. I don't know if you guys have read uh, Peter Thiel's 0 to 1. And then Chris Dixon writes 1 to 100. And they're fantastic reads, by the way, if you get a chance. And by the way, even if you don't have time to read, go to YouTube and kind of listen to what 0 to 1 means, right? How do you iterate early on a product and how do you learn? Today in the App Store, by the way, you guys have so much amazing tooling out there in the App Store that you can actually experiment and iterate within the App Store, and it'll give you data, quantitative data and qualitative data for you to digest and iterate.
Can I just add something, please? In regard to the competition, do you have the feeling that if I, for example, start with one product, that other competitors will learn from my experiment, and maybe if they have like larger budgets, they can compete me or take the market before me?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So in that case, how can I like plan, especially if I just have one product, and if I expand to other markets, they may like the idea and do some similar product.
Here's the so this is one is really comes down to intellectual property, right? And how is your intellectual property protected in the region as we think through and ideas that are put out there that are successful? The challenge you have, and by the way, I'm not debating intellectual property. And Hamza, I echo that, intellectual property laws in our region need to be strengthened, right? We have a problem in our region, right? And I think United States and Europe has done a very good job in protecting intellectual property. In our region, we have not. And so when I see inspiring young people like you that have good ideas, that is a risk you always have. I promise you this. The question comes down to who can execute better. Okay. Now, I use, an acronym called PROOF, which a lot of times I'll share with my team, where you start with like clarity on the problem, right? So understand what is the problem you're trying to solve. Two, I'm a strong believer in this, is ruthless prioritization. Know you can do 10 things, right, Jeff? If you wanted to, you can hit every aspect of the fintech world. You can be building your own crypto, you can be building your own banks, you can be doing remittances, but you have a finite resource and you have to make a decision now. Am I going to go deep or am I going to go wide? And what we find is deep will generally favor you. Going deep in an area will generally favor you. 1 second, guys. Sorry about that in the background. So I was saying that be ruthless in your prioritization. Number 3, operate in a feedback loop. So Hamza, you have a good idea. You've narrowed in that idea. Now find that test group quickly as possible. I think the team here is being generous to say 45 days. I would argue that even if on a piece of paper you have to draw out your app, put it in front of your neighbor, put it in front of your sibling, put it in front of your parents and say, this is my idea. Let's iterate on that idea. Because you're minimizing the time you want to invest in an idea that may not pan out. Right? That's why I said Jeff's question was so incredible, because he said, hey, do I plan out everything or do I iterate? And my argument is ruthless prioritization, iterate very early, very quickly. Get that feedback. And then number 4 and 5, I really talk about is owning your narrative. storytelling. Today, you heard a story from me on Kareem. I look at you, Hamza, and I say, okay, you're going to have an idea. Let me hear your story. Let me hear your narration. And how would you present this idea? How would you take this idea to market? What problem are you solving? And Hamza, I would encourage you, and Jeff, I would encourage you to present to these smart people on this call because they're fantastic audience for you to kind of provide you feedback. Does your idea have legs or not? And then I would lastly kind of come on is it is a lot easier to get new users versus keeping existing users. By show of hands, has anybody heard of Be Real? Social media app, Be Real,
No,
very popular 3 years
no,
ago.
no. Where?
No? Okay, I'll give you another one. Clubhouse.
Yes,
COVID,
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Another one I'll give you, House Party. I am was father of 3 teenagers. They were using House Party during COVID,
I
and
was
they
gonna
would
say, how many social network apps you know?
no, but isn't it funny that these apps at one point had 30, 40, 50 million customers?
True that.
And today, 3 years later, they're nowhere to be found. And what I'm saying is that iterating on that idea and structurally thinking through that idea is super key. So
So it's
Hamza, forgive me, I gave you a very long answer, but I thought at least share my perspective in depth with you.
So is it like chess? You first you have your game, and then you know already what you're gonna do next, and then what you're gonna do next, and then what you're gonna do next. So you already have planned your different steps, and you start with one, and you expand.
That's right. But I think a lot of people get, when we come up with an idea, we're so proud of ourselves. It's like our baby.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
and a lot of times we want to protect that baby and we don't want any criticism against that baby. But the reality is you have an idea, you evolve the idea, you see if it has legs.
Yes.
And if it doesn't have legs, you go to the next idea. But the process that you're going to learn in this workshop is the more important thing. That process is important. Regardless of the idea you put in this machine, the output of the machine is the important piece.
Okay, that's very inspiring. We'll take another question. So you know, like the participants here are very familiar with the iteration space because they
Good.
went through different workshop, but hearing it from an expert who went through the process of developing it, I think it adds so much value. So thank you very much, Baber. We'll give another room for a lady who has raised her hand. I think it is Khaira, Aisha.
Yes, hi, how are you? Thank you so much for the inspiring talk. I just have one question. Because I'm in the ideation stage, what piece of advice would you have for someone that is just starting out? And what's one mistake that you made early on that you can suggest us that we can avoid?
Great. An excellent question. Um, Let me maybe, earlier earlier me and Fawaz were talking, and I was talking about when I think of an idea, especially when it comes to mobile app, I think about it from a pre-adoption and a post-adoption world. So Aisha, in pre-adoption, let's me and you envision, you create an app, you submit it to the App Store Sunday night. Monday morning, you wake up and nobody downloaded the app. Why?
Because of no marketing?
Some, yes, some. What
Uh,
else?
what else? Maybe it wasn't, the UI UX wasn't okay.
What's funny thing is there's a lot of art goes into when you actually publish something in the App Store, starting from the most basic thing as your icon or your tile or your logo, to the colors you choose, the metadata you provide, all of that, the mechanics, and you'll go through it today. But one thing people make a mistake is they'll push something in the App Store without what we call seeding. And
Mm.
seeding means that, I iterate this idea. I go to a group of friends. I said, use my app. I put the app, you can make the app not discoverable, right? So you put the app out there, you'll have your peers play around with it, seed reviews, seeding meaning, put in the initial comments, return some feedback, get some downloads, iterate on it. And a lot of time, people will make that mistake that they won't think through what will discovery and seeding be, right? What would feedback be? What would ratings be? What would reviews be? And they blindly just launch something in the App Store and hope something magical happens. Okay, so
Makes a
that
lot of sense.
is you get it, right? And so
Yes.
Sunday night, imagine now I give you another one. It's Sunday night, you have a great idea, you publish to the App Store, you wake up Monday morning, and you have 2 million downloads.
That's the
Now,
difference between testing at first.
right? Now, what is the problem you have? Now, 2 million customers have downloaded. What is the problem you have?
You won't be able to manage everything.
You perfectly said it, right? And by the way, this is a mistake we made at Kareem. And we had to learn, I'll be honest with you. We took so many technical shortcuts early on that we had to learn how to rethink some areas and solve for scale, especially when it comes to reliability of the code. And so I don't think we have the most cleanest code. We didn't have the cleanest architecture. From architecture standpoint, if you heard the concept of building monolithic systems versus microservices, right? We built very monolithic systems, single transactional database, and scale became a big issue. But more importantly, if you search up Kareem, and Jeff, if you get a chance, look up, I think it was 2018, and look up where the data breach on Kareem. So 2018, 2017, very famous data breach happens at Kareem. And we're learning how to protect customer data, to protect PII data. And the beauty today, and Fawaz talks about it so well, the beauty today is that a lot of these mechanics are already in place for you today. In how to design systems with a framework in mind, from data protection to customer privacy to architectural design to app principles. A lot of these didn't exist in our journey, but they exist for you today.
So a lot of food for thought. I think you've given a lot of tips and insights, and we need a full session with you of 2 hours. So I think everyone will agree that it was a very insightful session. Thank you so much again, Babar. How do
My
we
pleasure.
reach out to you? Do you have like a LinkedIn account?
Yes, absolutely. I think
Yes.
I'm happy to share. I'm happy to share my LinkedIn. Bear with me 1 second.
Okay. Carmen has
Um,
shared just now.
Oh, it has some? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share with the team. I
Yeah.
just want to say how proud I am of this group, how courageous it is for you to be here, to challenge yourself. And then the biggest blessing is good people around you. I'll echo this over to have good teachers and good peers. They're a blessing. So use this group, build a bond, iterate, learn together. And inshallah, tomorrow, I think the next Microsoft, next Google should come from this group.
Thank you, Babar. I
My
think it's
pleasure.
very nice of you to give this inspirational and motivational talk. We had the chance to have Mudassir in one of the video for the Create App Championship. And Karim has always been supportive of the Create App Championship. And on behalf of the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy, we would like to thank you very much, and Entrepreneur Media
Blessing.
as well.
Thank you.
So
All right,
connect
guys.
with
Take care. Best of
Babar on
luck.
LinkedIn. You will get a lot of requests
No
on
problem.
LinkedIn.
Anything I can do to help.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care.
We'll keep you
Bye-bye.
posted. By the end of June, you'll be downloading 24 apps of the
I'm
since
game.
today. Game.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Babar. So thank you very much to Babar. Now we will be, I hope you were all inspired by his talk. Feel free to share your question. We'll dive in now with the session with Mohammed Fawaz. Roll up your sleeve. You're going to be learning on how to publish your app on iOS and on Android. The reason why we're doing this workshop now and not at the end is that we start from the end. So for you to understand what are the pros and cons, what are the things that you have to do to publish your app, so you can start from now. So just to go through quickly the timeline, today is the workshop number 1. As I mentioned, we only selected 24 teams, so it's great to have you here. And the next phase will be to build and test your MVP. I am sure and I hope that you all booked your one-on-one session with Fawaz and the team. This is essential for the success of your MVP. Again, this is one of a lifetime chance in your this is one of a chance in your life to have the chance to be mentored by a tech team in 45 days and launch your MVP. So we are here to help you succeed. The workshop 2 will happen on the 26th of May. We'll teach you how to turn your app into an MVP. The pre-launch will be around June, the 2nd and 13th of June, so the 3rd and 4th week. And the workshop number 3 is going to happen on the 2nd of June. Short cut to the success timeline. So on June 16, this is where you're going to be submitting your MVP on iOS and Android. Now, for this, the purpose of today, I'm just going to go through the housekeeping rule, and then I'll give the floor to Fawaz. Mute your mic when we are doing the workshop. Raise your hand if you want to participate. You can drop a note on the chat as well. And don't feel shy to just turn on your camera and take part of the workshop if you want to raise a question or if you have any comments. We are happy to answer your concern and to support you during your journey. Hands on to Mr. Fawaz for the rest of the workshop. Thank you, Fawaz. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, bye. And I think after an inspiring session from Baba and keeping up to that level and hearing it from the team who built Karim, and when we were having a chat, it was built in 30 days with the same essence. And as perfectly Sarah said, let's reverse engineer. We have a goal to have this published, right? So let's reverse engineer from the beginning. And back in time, as inspiring Karim was, there were a lot of things they had to figure it out by themselves. They didn't have a ChatGPT to ask for. They didn't have a full a no-code development to have the MVP seen. They didn't have Figma to have this, right? With that, would love to keep up these housekeeping rules, especially with your video, to be more engaging. And this is something I tell myself, right? As entrepreneurially, we have to exhibit our confidence of, you know what, we are being present, right? That's equally being present your idea. So people notice your idea, can bring it up. All right, what's the agenda for the day is we had a wonderful founder spotlight from Karim, and we're gonna have a detailed walkthrough to the development pathways, the publishing journey, real time explained, creating accounts in iOS or creating accounts in App Play Store to make sure most of us are on the Play Store, and also to go to a deep dive of platform specific publishing. What does it make by iOS, Android, and we have Suresh and we're experts to answer you today as well. And we wrap up. Right. So the goal for today, which is aligned with your 45 days roadmap, is after today, there is no room. We are discussing what is the development pathway we are taking. By today, we are very clear whether it's no code, full code, or hybrid, and the key technologies and tools for your development track. The essential step for iOS, Android. Web is complementary, and web is not qualifying you for the graduation of this program. It has to be an iOS or Android, it has to be out there. And clarity on the publishing process is very fundamental. Today's workshop is full about shoot all your questions that you have around and clear deployment roadmap, right? Okay, you're creating this. This is a challenge. This is going to go ahead. So this is what we intend to achieve, and we are achieving this together. And absolutely, you are in the right place, as this is designed with all the backgrounds of your idea and with the specific development roadmap or the hybrid approach. Right. Let's get ready for a quick understanding to bring you all back from that inspiration to execution, right? So we were inspired by Karim and we're going to execute our versions of Karim. Your apps is going to be published there. Right. So all what you need to do is get ready with your number pads on the chat. You're going to say 1 or 2. That's all what you're going to do. But you're going to see what are you going to choose. Would you rather choose number 1 or number 2? There will be 2 different things on the same thing. You're going to say, hey, I choose 1, I choose 2, right? So we're going to go ahead like that. Right. So it's A or B, right? You can have A or B, 1 or 2. So A is 1, B is 2, and feel free to put 1, 2, or A or B. I would say let's stick to it A or B. And let's go here. Would you debug someone else's code, which is 1, which is A, or would you rebuild from the scratch? If you were to choose, what would you choose? Let me get to the chat. All right, Emmanuel says, you know what? I'll rebuild from the entire scratch. Hyra says B. And who's in town? Egmont says A. You know what? I would love to debug. And Wallspread Edwards says B, 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 A. Okay, Ferlingo says A. And Faisal Brilliant says B. Oh, Dr. Hamza Ajwad is like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do both. And I'm going to debug some of the code for some component. I'm also going to build Scratch, which is not out there. Brilliant. Dr. Hamza, thank you. Right, so I could see most of you has responded. Brilliant. So I would like to see more responses for upcoming next. Would you rather work on the same product for 2 years and go deep? Or would you rather jump between different projects every few months? Don't just make it lucrative, just say what you feel like. Okay. All right, I see total A. Okay, I see all A's. Yeah. Okay. I see perfectly all A's. Okay. Art of building a product, very simple as what Karim is from 2012 to now, right? It's very, very important to have a consistency and iteration. Consistency doesn't mean that you get stuck and stop. Work on the same product for 2 years and go deep doesn't mean the product doesn't change or improve, but conceptually you go for market adoption. Jump between 2 different projects is you go from completely a different opportunity to another. Very simple. Let's very simple as possible. Today you talk about medical applications coming on mobile. Back in time, it was not easy regulation, but now regulation is eased. So if somebody was working on that, today they will be working on different angle, but the idea is same. So it's very important to have consistency. All right, let's go for the third one. Would you rather live in a dark mode forever? When I say technological dark mode, right? The black dark mode, or only be allowed to use the light mode? Wow. Live in dark mode forever. Wow. Right. Interesting. Okay, I see B2. Egmont says B. Okay, I'll only be allowed in the light mode. And I do as Dr. Hamza says, okay, to use in the light mode. Brilliant. And okay, Felingo says both. Okay, I'll be switching between A and B. Hamad, right. Right. What does this say? We always have choices, right? It's we who you choose, right? And in same thing in development. What's so important? Act. There's nothing wrong in debugging somebody else's code to build your dream, and there's nothing wrong in rebuilding the entire feature from the scratch. But you know what is so scary? Having 2 options, but not decided what to do, right? It's okay, your app is fully in the dark mode or in the light mode, or you're switching between them. What's so important? Choose and act on it. That's what this accelerator program is all about, right? All right. Let's deep dive into the development pathways and its associations with each iOS and Android. And I would love to have Suresh here. Suresh?
Hi, Faz. Hi.
Right. So Suresh is going to deep dive into all of this. Suresh comes from veteran experience of publishing apps and part of Google development group, and has been in immense part who is helping entire us. And some of you have already met Suresh in a one-to-one that we developed your roadmap. So with all that, you Suresh, wish all the best and take it over.
Right. Good evening, guys. So I'm Suresh, and thanks a lot for the wonderful introduction. And I hope all of you are inspired by the session from Ms. Baba. So anyway, let's get into the topic for the day. So today we'll be diving deep. Today we'll be going through the entire process of publishing your application and the guidelines you need to follow depending on the track that you guys are working with. So without further ado, let's get things started. Right. So first of all, we are going to look at the different pathways that all of you might use, as well as depending on the pathway, depending on the track that you have chosen already, what are the guidelines that are appearing in terms of the publication. So we'll be diving through all of these concepts. And at the end of the day, let's learn how to properly go through the publishing flow and get your apps listed on the Play Store or the Apple App Store. All right. So I guess from the week number 1 itself, you might be already aware about these tracks that you guys are using, right? So for the first one is a no-code roadmap. Second one is the full code one. And the third one is basically the hybrid roadmap. So when I was conducting all of these one-to-one sessions, one thing that I noticed was some people might have might not have clear understanding on which track that needs to be chosen, right? So it's like this. It's a decision that you all have to make depending on your skill set and depending on the people you have in the team, right? So for an example, let's say in this case, so there can be some people who are just getting started with coding. There can be people who are already done some sort of level of development, and there can be people with full-on developer experience as well. So this program is catered towards all the audiences, and it's up to you to decide this basically, right? So talking about the no-code roadmap, right? So it's mostly focused on building this application with rapid development tools. So for an example, let's say Adalo. So this doesn't require any sort of coding, right? Because this is more like a visual kind of code builder. Let's say if you want to get the application up and running soon without investing much time on the development aspect, these kind of platforms are pretty much useful, right? So let me talk about some other platforms as well, right? So you all can start with first of all designing the UI and the user experience with applications such as Figma, and you can totally design the layout of the application, right? Some people I have seen people are using these applications such as Sketch. That is also really great platform for you all to do the initial level prototyping. And Figma is also one of the great applications that any of these tracks can use these applications and design the initial level of user experiences and UIs. Right. So to talk about the no code roadmap, right? So we have these different platforms. For an example, Glide, Adalo, Bubble, Applebee, Inkable, and so all of these platforms are there, right? So these are, like I said before, these are the applications that uses less code to build the applications. And this is really helpful for non-programmers to get their application started.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's quickly go through the Adalo process. So if you are new to Adalo, you can visit the official website, which is adalo.com. And here you have the sign up option as well as the login option. So you all can start by creating an account.
Yes, sharing
Yes,
the screen.
Fawaz.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah, you can see,
Guys,
right?
team, I just wanted to jump in, and this is going to be the interactive versions. I know some of things would have gone through. Please make sure you have full rights to interrupt and ask questions, because this
Definitely.
don't want to be in a webinar. If you feel like, hey, this part I'm not clear, go ahead, because we're going to implement this. And this is not just about listening. It's, as I said, let's take actions. Yes, Suresh, go on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would like to have your questions, and on the spot I can then and there I can clear the concepts if there's something that is hard to understand or that you feel like you need guidance. Feel free to interrupt and drop your questions. the Padlet link is given. So yeah, all right, let me continue. All right, so you all can sign up for Adelo account by using your email address, password, and the full name. And once you do have the account, you can easily log in from here, right? So let me quickly log in to my Adelo account. And here, there are multiple types of applications you can build. So not just limited to these applications. So depending on the custom level of requirements you all have, you all can define the application type. So here you can see by default, they have given categories such as journalism, journals, local providers, e-commerce, right? Things like that. These sort of different application types has been given. So let's say if I'm going with e-commerce, you can actually choose, okay, what sort of data that has to be there, right? So talking about the data, right? So you all need to decide, okay, so if I'm developing such an application, what is going to be the source of data, whether that is a database, whether that is a CSV. So CSV is actually more like a, it's more like a extension that you can store something similar to Google, the Excel sheets, right? It's more like a storage way to store the information. So you can choose the data source here basically, right? So if you don't have a data source planned initially, you can go with your sample data, right? So you can see they have given all of the sample data, so you can easily, you can easily configure this application, right? So in this particular scenario, right, they will ask questions such as, okay, what is the proper medium that you all want to, serve this application? For an example, let's say whether you want to build a mobile application, whether you want to do something like a tablet or desktop application as well. So for an example, let's say if you guys want to build this application targeting towards multiple screen sizes, so then the second option would be the choice. But I'm just getting started with the mobile category because that's going to be the most the priority of this program. Right, so you can see now the application is being initialized. So you can see the screens such as login, the list, the home page, and these kind of screens are getting created. And you can see, right? So these are the very basic screens the application has generated. So what you can do is basically from the plus icon, which is there in the left corner, you all can keep adding more items. For an example, let's say if you guys want to add something like a form or some sort of image or navigation bars. So all of these sort of layouts are there. So you all can keep on configuring this application by using this sort of navigations, layouts, lists and cards and forms as well. So very easily, without investing much time in terms of the development, you all can get your application up and running very fast with Adelo platform. Right. So once you're done with the whole setup of development, there's this feature where you can easily publish this application and we can see the preview, how it looks like, right? So for an example, there's this option called View Web, right? So under the View Web, we can actually preview how it looks like in real devices. So that's also there. That's a really cool feature that I find out because, before the deployment, before you publish the application, it is required to be tested properly, whether all of these the functionalities are working before deployment, right? So easily here in the screen, you can keep testing this application. And then once you verify, okay, my application is perfectly working. So now I can straight away go ahead and publish this application on the Play Store or App Store. So that confidence has to be there before you do some sort of a publication. Right. So I know that, okay, non-coders, I'm pretty sure that you all might have this question, right? How to learn this? So that's a pretty solid question that I believe that most of you are facing. Okay, it's really easy to learn Adelo. It's more like building blocks, right? So for the ones who are using this for the first time, right? They have a comprehensive documentation they have available on Google. So let me show you that real quick. If you search for Adelo docs, this is the official documentation, right? So if you're getting started, if you're getting things started with the design, development, performance, so all of these tutorials are straight away right there. They are made available publicly. I would recommend this is what you should be referring to. I'll anyway drop the link in the chat section as well. So feel free to go through it And this is going to be a really great starting point. This is going to be a really great starting point for you to get things started with low code roadmap. Right. So apart from Mandala, we have other platforms as well, Glide, Bubble, things like that. So these are really great platforms that you all can try out. But today's focus is mostly going to be on the publishing aspect. So I'm not going to touch upon the development aspects, but I'll try to, bridge between the development aspect plus the publication aspect, because the development phase is required before you go for the publishing aspect. So I'll be trying to, bridge the gap between those two areas as well. Right. So second thing, the full code roadmap. This is what the actual code geeks are coming into play, right? So if you have an experienced development team, or if you have people, the founders who are capable of coding an application from the ground up, this is going to be the go-to option, right? So comparing the no-code roadmap and the full code roadmap, there's a significant difference. So one of the things is that when it comes to the full code roadmap, right, it takes the engineering skill, right? And in terms of the publication aspect, in terms of the scaling aspect, full code roadmap has the higher advantage, because you can easily keep on adding new features, you can customize in the way that you wanted, right? You had the full control to do whatever to your application. So even when you're scaling up, even after this program, when you're scaling up, right, you can customize this application in the way that you want it, right? So, but this requires the engineering skill and the development skill. But if you have that talent in your team, if you have that right people in the team for the development purposes, I would say full code roadmap would be the best choice that you can go with. Right. So talking about these frameworks, right? So I want to quickly go through these frameworks that are available. So we have 3 modes of developing these applications. Sorry, 2 modes actually, 2 modes of developing these applications. First mode is called the native mobile application development. Second mode is called the cross-platform development. So talking about the native mode, so it's like basically you're utilizing the real frameworks given by these larger companies, such as Android, such as Google, such as Apple for iOS, right? So companies like Google, Apple, they have given these native frameworks. To be used. For an example, for iOS, we are using this programming language called Swift. For Android, we're using these languages called Kotlin, Java. But there's a small disadvantage, right? It's like this. If you're going with 2 platforms, you have to code separately, right? Because it's native. So in that case, if you're going with 2 platforms for iOS and Android, you need to have the code base written for Swift, and also the code base has to be written from either Kotlin or Java. So there's going to be a duplication of processes. So that might be a challenge if you're planning to publish the application for multi-platform. But don't worry, Google has released something interesting that I saw recently, which is the Kotlin multi-platform, right? So Kotlin now supports multi-platform as well, but the documentations are being still built up. But I would say these are the options we have. But if you have that expertise, feel free to use it by yourself. Second option is a cross-platform mobile application frameworks. This is the most common and the most favorite development methodology of a lot of mobile developers, right? For an example, let's say if you guys want to develop this application targeting towards iOS and Android with a single code base, cross-platform frameworks are there. So here there's no code duplication, right? With just the same with the same code base, you all can build these applications for any of these platforms, right? For an example, if you use something like React Native, right, very easily you can do that. So React Native is originally developed by this company called Meta, right, Facebook, and the parent company of Facebook actually. So even the Facebook application, the full Facebook mobile application is written with React Native. And then we have Flutter, right? Flutter is actually from Google, and it's a really interesting it's a really interesting programming. It's a really interesting framework that you all can use to build your applications. And yeah, so that's also there. And thirdly, we have the database management applications, because at the end of the day we should integrate these applications with your databases. So I would recommend going with something like a backend as a service database. For an example, let's say we have Cloud Firestore, right? MongoDB, Superbase, things like that. All right. Hybrid. So what is hybrid roadmap? So here we have actually the combination. It's more like a combination between the full code roadmap and the no code roadmap, right? So what we're doing here is basically we are combining some elements from both of these roadmaps, and depending on the requirement you have, we are going to combine them. So let me give an example. So you might have heard this platform called Strapi and or Contentful. So these are actually low code backend development platforms, right? For an example, if you give the resource requirement, you can simply, depending on the visual interface that the Strapi or Contentful has, you can get the content backend up and running without writing a single code, right? So these are pretty useful headless backend tools. So you can utilize that. And by using the components of the full code roadmap, you all can build the application by using some sort of a proper frameworks such as Flutter or React Native, right? So that's going to be like a combination between some of the elements of the full code roadmap as well as the no code roadmap. Right. So before we move forward to the next segment, let me see if you have gotten more questions. I would like to answer before we move forward to the next segment. Right. Feel free to drop in your questions. So on the way, I can answer those as well. Right. No questions so far.
Suresh, I think there's a question. Salim has
Right. Yes.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, we can answer Salim's question and then we can take up few questions also, Suresh.
Right. Let me see the question.
So the question is, I used to Replit to build a web app. Is there a way to build a no-code mobile app integrated with Replit?
Right. Okay. So it's like this. So like I said before, if you're using some sort of no-code application, we should first of all think about, okay, the requirement, right? So depending on the features, the set of features you have, we need to choose because there are limitations in some of these platforms, right? Could I know what is the application? I believe it's that marketplace is a social media platform. Yeah.
Yeah, it's implemented with AI. So it's like a professional network matchmaking, or let's say matchmaking business network, which has the users, and but we match through AI, which match their business field, and then they connect only when there is a business opportunity.
Right. So I believe you're using Replit to build the web application, right?
It's already built and working well, perfect tool. And now we need to look into how we can create the app.
Yes. All right. Okay. So here's the thing. So Replit has this thing called, they have an API. API means the application programming interface. If you want to give the data out to some sort of no code platform, Replit has to have that capability of giving out the data, right? So, but talking about something like Adalo, they have the data ingestion feature where you can link third-party data sources as well. So I think, like I just showed you before couple of minutes ago, they have that capability of linking with third-party databases. For an example, if you have the knowledge, if you have the data set which is coming from Replit, through the API, you can do the integration. So you can actually, it's more like a hybrid approach actually, because you're integrating between some kind of third-party tool, and it's more like a no code combination, but still that involves some sort of programming concepts as well, because you have to utilize the data sources given by Replit to be linked with something like Adalo. So that.
So you are talking in terms of data. What about in terms of interface as well?
Yes. So, you mentioned something, right? Sorry.
Suresh, now he's talking about data and both interface.
Yeah, right, okay, okay. So talking about the interfaces, I would say don't go with two platforms because that's going to be pretty much challenging. I would say in terms of the development, in terms of the front end aspects, you can stick to one platform, either Adalo or Replit. But here's the thing. So to build a mobile application, I would say Adlo would be the best choice, right? Because they have all sort of publishing capabilities. So considering that, I would say stick to Adalo for the mobile application UI development phase. So Replit can be a really great platform as well in terms of the data ingestion. But yeah, I would say just stick to one platform when it comes to the front end, the development of the UI aspect.
Okay.
And Hamza, Dr. Hamza, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks for the knowledge you provided. I have a question. As we are building a game, and part of that is building the game using Unreal Engine,
Unreal
right?
Engine, right?
We thought we can invest our time and development in the Unreal Engine game, but at the same time, we may need. I'm not sure about this. If we will need a mobile application to support that game, and I was thinking of Adalo or Thinkable as a platform build the application with no code. So I have like two or three questions. The first one is, are they compatible with each other? Like the Unreal game, does it need like a container app? And do we have an access to the code if we need to do some customization in that term? And the second question is, if we have, for example, an application built with Flutter, are we able to use Adalo to customize that application or no?
Right. Great question. That's a great question. I think a lot of people might have this question when it comes to choosing multi-platforms in terms of game development, right? So it's like this. Adalo is actually mostly focused on applications that has basic requirements, right? For an example, simple CRUD applications. Maybe CRUD means the creation of information, retrieval of information, updating, things like that. Since you're building a game, I would recommend going with a platform that is focused towards mobile game development. Unreal Engine is a really great choice, but look at the Android publication aspects. But here's the thing, I'm pretty sure this, have you heard about this application called Unity Engine? Unity?
Unity, yes.
Unity, anyway, they natively has this capability of exporting your game as an Android application, as an Android APK file. So just double check.
Unity.
Yes, and Unity has a lot of easy to use tools as well, plug and play tools that you can use to build this application real quick. And at the end of the development, you can use the Android platform to export this application as APK, which is APK is actually the extension of the Android application that needs to be uploaded. Is actually like the export file of the game that needs to be uploaded to Google Play Store at the end of the day. So I would recommend trying out Unity. That is a really great platform to build games in a real quick way and to export straight away to support the Play Store guidelines. And the second thing is that you asked regarding the integration between something like a game development tool as well as with Adalo. So I don't think that's a great choice to go ahead with, because Adalo is actually a web-based, it's actually a web-based, even though it's a mobile application, they're using this technique called WebView to load the content. I understand it's a mobile application, but there's a concept called WebView, which means they are loading a website inside the application that looks like mobile application. So considering that, I don't recommend, integrating whatever the game you develop with Unity or Unreal Engine with Adalo, because that's for low code development. So yeah, you can straight away export natively with Unity Engine, that for sure.
So
Great.
yeah, the produced code is not like native application. It's just a website, but in a container.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. That's how Adalo works.
Yeah.
Dr. Hamza will dive some of these into the upcoming one-to-one calls. And
Mm.
yes, Hamad, thank you. Godota also has a similar feature. Shem, I'm going to take your question. The Karim CTO mentioned server-driven architecture, which allows them to iterate very quickly. Can we have any more information on this? For sure, yes. I'm just going to move that question to one of the last questions after Q&A to take it up. And I also have a question from Signify Ayman. I'm in the no-code development. I want to know what these tasks mean. App Store Asset Kit, and Suresh is going to deep dive into publishing aspects into those.
Yes.
And also, I have a question from Aisha. Considering the need for features like payment gateway, vendor onboarding, push notification, would integrate capacitor to convert the code enhance our app's native capability to be advisable, or would you leveraging the backend as a service like Super is more effective to manage these functionalities? Does Adelo cover this? Suresh, you can quickly address Haira's question, Aisha's question, and we can move to
Yes.
the next phase of publishing. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That's also a really great question with regard to all of these integrations with third-party platforms. All right, so this is where the payment gateways come into play. So in that case, I don't really recommend using Adalo for a complex integration with APIs, with payment gateway APIs, because the integration of payment gateways could be technically challenging. So because of that concern, I don't really recommend using a framework like Adalo to this sort of payment gateway integration capability. So that's there. So I would say in that case, if because all of these payment gateways, such as Stripe, such as PayPal, they require some sort of the complex configurations. So because of that, I don't recommend Adalo for a payment gateway kind of integration. The second question is basically leveraging backend as a service like Superbase would be more effective managing these functionalities. Yes, Superbase can be a really helpful one, but still that requires a native implementation, not a native, that could be native implementation or even a cross-platform integration. So yeah, like I said, still those two requirements requires either a cross-platform development or a native requirement. So yeah, that's not compatible. Yeah,
Brilliant. And keep pushing these questions, and if there's any more questions, keep pushing it up. We're gonna take what is relevant and we're gonna answer almost everything. Brilliant. Let's keep moving, Suresh.
Sure. All right. So I think some of these points that I already explained during the Q&A as well. But let me quickly discuss something that I haven't discussed earlier, right? Okay. So with regard to this, so understand the tech stack, right? So I believe this could, because right now we have a lot of choices. I know sometimes it can be challenging to pick one when we have a lot of choices, right? So that's going to be something that I personally find out, okay, as challenging. So it's like this. So how to pick this right platform? That's going to be one of the key areas that we can focus on, right? So let's say your application. So first of all, you need to decide the features, right? What sort of features we have, whether if it's like a simple CRUD application that requires simple operations such as adding content, listing content, updating content, things like that. So these things are already achievable by these no-code applications as well. But if we talk about these third-party API integrations, things like that, that requires some sort of a development from ground up. So that's also there. So when you're choosing these platforms, always look at, just do a simple Google search and see, okay, how are these similar competitive applications are developed, right? And look at their technology stacks, because sometimes they can be using something better as well. So we can't really decide, okay, how to do it just by guessing the platform. So that's not a possible way. So we need to creatively think, logically think on what kind of features I have, whether this platform is capable enough of handling that. So I think I covered that aspect in the Q&A as well, in the previous question. Those are really great questions that I got. Right. All right. So let's straight away get into the topic of publication. And before that, let me talk about some sort of important concepts as well that we have here. Right. Okay. So like I said, choosing the Node-Core platform, backend as a service, and programming languages it's really required for this development phase. So in terms of the backend as a service platform, we have multiple options. One thing is that we have something called Firebase. Firebase is from Google. It's a really great platform because they have a great set of tools. Let me show you Firebase as well real quick. So this is called This is the Firebase platform. So you can see they have different services. They have the authentication service. They have databases. They have hosting, and multiple other multiple other products as well. So you all can, easily integrate these features into your application by writing less code, right? And then we have something called Superbase. This is also a really great platform. This is something similar to Firebase as well, but this is mostly focusing on the data storage, the database aspect. So this is a really great platform. If you want to store your information, data, Superbase is also a really great platform. And then we have something called Neo. There's something called Neo database. That's also a really great platform. They have a lot of features you all can think about. They have even very custom level application as well, custom level features as well, that you can easily scale up even to the production. For an example, let's say if you want to try out first, and then if you want scale, when you even at the scale up phase, if you want to try out, scale up fast, Neo would be a great choice that you all can look at, right? So keep these platforms in mind, because these are going to be pretty much useful at your development phase. And then let me talk about the IDs, right? So a lot of people are finding difficult, some of the people might be finding challenging to find which IDs to be used in the full code roadmap or in the hybrid roadmap. So I would recommend this ID called Visual Studio Code, that is from Microsoft. It's a pretty easy to use ID, and it's very lightweight as well. You all can try that also. And if you're doing some sort of a AI driven coding, for an example, let's say if you guys wanted AI to help you with the coding in terms of debugging applications, in terms of debugging any sort of errors, right? I would recommend this ID called Cursor. And there's another ID called Windsurf. Windsurf is actually acquired by OpenAI also. So these are actually really great AI-driven coding editors, editors. So that you all can try out to write AI-based coding, because they have the free trial, the free versions as well. For an example, if you look at Windsurf, they have the free plan, pro plan, Teams plan, enterprise as well. Definitely go check out these platforms. And then we have Cursor, the AI code editor, right? This is a really great platform that I can recommend for AI-driven coding. And also, along with Visual Studio Code, they recently announced this thing called Agent Mode, right? So if you, it's a free version, it's a free opportunity that you'll have. You don't have to pay anything. Even with Visual Studio Code, there's this thing called Agent Mode. You can just give the prompt, automatically does the debugging, feature writing, anything is possible with the Agent Mode of Visual Studio Code as well. So those are the options that you'll have in hand in terms of AI-driven coding. So yeah, those kind of platforms are there. Right. So now you all can take your time later, and you all can configure all of these accounts, do the research, find out which platform suits your application, and configure whatever the technologies. And feel free to ask the mentors as well during a one-to-one course if you all want any guidance on choosing these platforms or going with whatever the technology that you all find difficult. Right. Okay.
All right.
So
Let's, yes, Suresh, brilliant. I think we have gone through a base setup in terms of development environment. Next, without further delay, we're going to go into publishing. But before that, we have to rethink when we come to the app asset, which some of you may be asking about. We need to streamline, right? Our idea is big, vision is big. Let's do a quick activity from it, right? The activity is very simple. Start thinking about in one word. What is the main feature? What is the industry that your business app or the idea is? What is the main problem it solves? And all of this in one word, right? And this is the one word defines your app. Let's see an example, right? Let's look into an example how it looks like. Yes, for example, right? Let's say you are talking about an app of education industry, right? And it's about the app that you want to launch in terms of publishing, tutoring. So the main feature will be tutoring. Industry will be education. The main problem it solves will be the connecting the tutors, right? That's the tutor. And one word, it's an education app, right? let's look at an example what you're going to do right now, right? Yes, Suresh. Perfect, right? Let's move. Yeah, so sorry, forward. Let's think about for your app, how do you think this is possible, right? Now, for example, imagine of an example of this nature on the grid. Have a grid of 4, right? And see what we can do. Now, for example, let's do a lingo, right? You know that. What is the main feature? Learning. What is the industry? It's the education. What does the main problem it solves? Language. One word defines your app is consistency. Now, don't worry about finding the word, all of it. I want that thinking, one word thinking, if we are to define this, right? Okay, you're gonna take a little bit of time, do your work, but I need 4 volunteers, right? Let's go to annotate. Let's go to the next slide and let's get 4 volunteers or 5. Let's say 5 volunteers to annotate, right? So put your name on the top. Go to the annotate function. Put your name on the top. Say what is the main feature, as we know in the one word. What is the industry? What is the main problem it's solving? What is that one word define your app? Let's make it fast, guys. Got a little bit of time, and we need to give deep dive into a lot of questions, which is about app publishing, and we have a content for it too. Who are the 4 volunteers I'm gonna have? If I were you, yes. Don't be shy. Just get to it. It's gonna okay. I already see one. Yeah, okay. I see a lot of play happening. Just go to annotate, and in annotate you have a text feature, right? You see the first one is to mouse, second one you see the text. Put the text and write down the text. Just one word. Dama, thank you very much. So Dama goes on the first. Who's going next? I need to see 4 more of you. Yes, Aisha. You have the annotate function. Just click on, and you see a lot of features like drawing, text, and all of it. Okay. See, Dama is doing it as an example for us. Brilliant, Dama. So sustainable shopping, industries, e-commerce. Okay, I see some text also coming in. Igman, thank you. Who is in town is about the main feature is planning, the industry is travel, and the main problem it shows is scheduling. And one word defines your app is simple. Okay, I see who is in your town is going. Okay, we have 3 more slots. Grab your chance. And this is being recorded. Somebody is going to look at audit, going to remember your app. Take it as it's okay. Better flags, thank you very much. I see you're filling the last one. Brilliant. We have 2 more slots left. See, this helps. Okay, I see Ayman. Okay, Ayman has given on chat. It's Signify. The main feature is, okay, help finding the annotate. Okay, on the right bottom, you see a writing sign on top of your audio, or just top of your audio. Maybe based on your screen size, it may be different. Yes, okay. Yes, you can. If you don't have the annotate feature on your Zoom, just go type it. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. You have seen it. Brilliant.
Just I don't know how to access to this file, that's why.
No need. Okay, just drawing it on the screen itself. Don't worry, we've got yes. I see filling going on, and brilliant. I see one more, and you can put it on chat as we said. Okay. Okay, wall split is going on. All right. Okay, while all of us fill, the main purpose of this is now we're going to get to the mode of defining this. Publishing is about defining. Although we learn it as a workshop 1, as we know it's a reverse engineering. This is something of a thought we do when we are publishing, which we have the product ready. But in benefit of reality achieving the 45 days, we're going to learn it in advance. And not just learn it, implement. Go set up your accounts and everything, right? See, we still have challenges in defining it in one word. That's the whole point, right? So we need to be able to define, tell them this is what exactly the idea is. Because sometimes some review questions comes, what is the industry or what is the category you perform? And we've like, no, this, that, and all of it, right? So that's what we want to bring in. Brilliant. Okay, I get from kids as well. Learning through game and education is your industry. Lack of financial literacy is the main problem you solve, and the defines is funny. Okay, we've got more examples. Brilliant. Thank you very much for it. I see wall split is on it. Automated payment shipping, splitting is your main feature. Fintech, main problem you solve. And I see FedEx CC, event is booking, event management. The problem you solve is lack of visibility and the bookings for business and event and service providers. Brilliant team, right? With that note, I'm just going to take a screenshot of this and clear all of this, the drawings. And Suresh, over to you. We move next on publishing.
Right. Hope I'm audible again.
Yes, you are.
Great, great. All right. So now we are getting to the main topic, the main aspect for what we have discussed today, the publishing journey. Right. So first of all, let's talk about the requirement, right? What are the requirements that has to be there for the publication? So I'm not going to repeat about the basic soft keys as well as some of the other requirements, but yeah, you definitely require that IT literacy in terms of using managing online accounts and internet. So these are the very basic things you should know. But anyway, let's get to the topics of the platform specific awareness, right? Talking about iOS, there are two main requirements, right? You need to have this thing called iOS developer account, which is actually a paid option. So they have two account types we have. The first type is called, so they have two accounts. First thing is called the enterprise account, the personal account, and they have the enterprise account. So for an example, if you guys have some sort of a corporate registration or a BR, you all can go ahead with the corporate registration so that costs somewhere around $199 per year. And if you're going with the personal account, they have 99 USD account. So depending on the category you have, you all can sign up for Apple developer account. So if you want to find out how to do it, let me show you. Let me quickly go through how to sign up for a Apple developer account. So you can just go to Google and search for Apple developer program, sign up. And here you will find the link called become a member, right? So like I said before, you can apply as an individual or you can apply as an organization. So when you're applying as an organization, there are several requirements they require. For an example, talking about it requires the legal registration documents, the business registration. And also they have something called DUNS number, right? So DUNS number is actually a number that is a unique number that is given for each business. So it's a third-party entity. It's a third-party company who manages these DUNS registration. So you can apply for a DUNS number from their website, right? So let me show you that. So I'll drop the link here as well in your chat section. So in case if you're applying for a Apple business account, right, this DUNS number is required. So in order to get this source, you need to submit your business registration documents. And then at the end of the day, you will get that number, right? It's a unique number to identify your business anywhere in one of these online profiles. So that applies to Android as well. If you're applying for a corporate account on Android, Google Play Store, still that the DUNS number requirement is there. So you need to submit your business registration documents and then get that number from the link I have provided in the chat. Right. So that's requirement number 2. And like I said before, yeah, you need to submit the legal documents and the legal statuses, entity names, and your national identity cards, as well as the government IDs are allowed. And finally, the DUNS number and the phone and email. So these are requirements when you're signing up as an organization, and you can even sign up as an individual as well. So you need to sign up using one of your IDs, or you can provide bills and stuff to verify your membership. Right. So once you sign up for account, you will see something like this, right? So you will see the Apple Developer Publication portal. So here you can, if you go to the applications, you can see all of applications, right? So you can even, so here you can see there's a link called applications, right? So under the application, you will see all of your applications. and you can create new applications, you can submit your bundles, things like that are possible. But let me talk about some of the pitfalls. Let me talk about some of the issues that you guys might find when you're submitting the application for account on iOS, right? Because Apple is actually doing a comprehensive review of your profile, and all the documents has to be legally accurate, and all the documents has to be in English, right? But here's a statement. So if you are living in a foreign country, in your in your legal documents, if the foreign English if it's not in English, you all might have to go through your government entity and get it translated, because the document has to be in English when you're submitting for Apple developer account, right? So from this page, you all can start with your enrollment. You can choose the program type, and you all can sign up for account. So yeah, that's going to be the normal process of signing up for iOS accounts, right? And the second requirement is a MacBook, right? MacBook or Apple computer. So that's a must to have if you're publishing for iOS, because you can't publish using Windows device or some other operating system. So you need to have a MacBook to work with iOS platform, right? So now going back to Android, the Google Play developer account is a requirement. So like I said before, even Google Play development, even the Google Play signing up process requires a DNS number if you are an organization. But if you are a personal developer, there's nothing being asked. It's just that you have to provide the national identity card or some sort of driving license or passport, something like that, to verify your identity, right? To get things started with Google Play, you can of course search for Google Play Console sign up on Google, and then you will see this page, right? So this takes you to the sign up process of the setting up process of the Google Play account, right? So here, first of all, you can choose the type, right? Whether you are an organization or whether you are an individual, right? So if you're an organization, you can actually pick the type of the organization from here. If you're a company, you can choose that, non-profit, government organization, educational, right? Depending on the type of the organization, you can pick the type over here and then create the process. So like I said before, it requires the registration documents and the DUNS number as well. If you're signing up as an individual, you can get things started from here. You can see this option called yourself, and click on get started to sign up for an individual account. So now talking about the pricing. So the Google Play account costs only somewhere around 25 USD. It's actually a one-time payment, right? So for 25 USD, you're getting the Google Play developer account forever for free for that amount. But Apple account is not like that. You have to pay either $99 or $199 per year for the renewal of the membership, right? So that's going to be the requirement. But for Google Play, we don't have that kind of requirements. It's always going to be the 25 USD lifetime payment, right? So next, we need to give the developer name, right? So you can, okay, so this is where you are going to be representing yourself, right? So this is going to be a public developer name. So even if you sign up as a personal account, right, still you can give a third, like a different name than your real name, right? For an example, let's say if you have personal business, you can give a personal business name here. So here you can even give your Apple apps name, your apps name here as well, right? So this is going to be like a public visible. This is going to be like a name which is going to be publicly visible to all the members of Google Play account. So here it's okay to enter something which is not your real name as well. So this is going to be like a public name. So let's say I would say something like, right, I would say this, right? So the next step is verifying your payment profile, right? So in this step, it requires the credit card to be linked up. So you can, first of all, before you do that, you need to enter your address and save, and that's going to appear over here, right?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, on the developer name, because I thought the name that should be there should be the developer. Let's say if I have a developer on my team, is name supposed to be there or my company name? Because I was thinking it's supposed to be the developer's name.
developer name is not the legal name, right? It can be a legal name as well, but it doesn't have to be always the legal name of you. This is going to be like a public name, which is going to be visible on the Play Store.
Okay.
So there's a section called About You, so which is in the third step. So this is where you need to enter real name, and you need to verify your identity by using a government issued NIC or a driving license or a passport. So you can verify the identity in the about you section. So this is where you need to enter the real name, the legal name of yourself, when you're signing up.
Okay.
Right. So here you can, you can give your developer email address over here. And let's say, okay, so now that we are getting, so here the reason I'm getting legal name as this is basically my Google account name is given like this. So for an example, you can see in my Google account is called Stage Effect, right? This is where it takes my name as the legal name. That's why it's displayed over here. But when you're signing up through your Google account, make sure your legal name is correct in the Google developer account, in the Google account itself, right? So right now, my Google account has a different name, right? You can see it's called Stage Effect as my Google account name. So make sure you have your correct name in the Google account name. But definitely you can go with a different name as well as part of your developer account name. But here, make sure it's correct. It's a legal name in your Google account name, right? Understood? All right. That's a great question. So now here you can actually enter your email address once again here. This is going to be publicly visible. So yeah, so you can enter email address and you can verify that as well. And finally, you can give the consent to Google Play Store to use the information. So yeah, so we have a question from Fuolingo team. Yeah. Can I know what's the question?
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Fantastic. So when registering as organization, does your legal name should be the same as your app name, or can they both be entirely different?
Great question. Yeah. So when you're signing up as an organization, it has to be the name of the business, right? So if your business has LLC or LTD or something like that, it requires to be the business name actually, right? So it has to be the business name, which is given in a business registration document that applies to corporate accounts.
Okay, and can the app name be anything else?
Yes, that's totally fine. So that applies to the personal accounts as well. App name can be anything, but here developer name can be anything. But in the corporate accounts, the developer name has to be the business name with the that is there in the registration document itself. All right. All right. So let's move forward. So now you can proceed with the signing up process. So you can give your information. You can say, okay, what sort of apps you are going to publish, right? How's your experience with Play Console? So you just need to mention about your experience. But here's the thing. So here in this statement, don't mention that you are a beginner, right? Sometimes there can be rejections for the applications. So say you can describe what kind of applications you're publishing. Don't just say you are a beginner, right? To avoid rejections. So you can describe about the application, what sort of applications you're going to publish, right? So those things you can, of course, mention here, and how you are building the application, what kind of technologies you're using. So feel free to include those information in signing up for a Google account, right? So give this information. So for the time being, I'm just entering test, but you make sure that you give proper information over here. Otherwise, they will reject the application because they are manually checking the accounts, right? Finally, if you have a website, feel free to add your link here. If you don't have, that's totally fine. I don't have a website. And next. Right, the number of apps. You can mention how many number of apps you're going to publish, whether if it's one, maybe in the future, if you have any other plans to publish more applications, you can mention, okay, 2 to 5 or something like that also. And then you need to give the declaration of how you're going to make money of it, right? So you can mention, okay, do you plan to make money? If you're planning to make money out of it using advertisements or some other revenue model, you can mention that also. And you can mention the revenue models that you have. And the categories, right? This is really important. This is something that I want to talk about very much because when I'm talking with when I'm talking with you all at the one-to-one sessions, I noted some of the people are building government applications and healthcare applications. So these applications categories are very special application categories because you require the permission. For an example, if it's a government application, you need to get the permission from that particular government organization or entity to build something for their organization. So you need to get the permission letters or documents and upload it during the approval process. But not here, not during the sign up. When you're creating the application, when you're publishing the application, they will ask you these documents, otherwise they will reject the application. Same thing, same concept applies towards healthcare applications also. So when you're publishing for healthcare, you need to get the consent letters from whatever the health ministries or hospitals, doctors to verify this application is properly developed in terms of meeting their guidelines. So that's going to be a must, right? So this applies to government and healthcare applications, and sometimes even for news applications, because these conditions are being applied to make this Play Store a safe place, right? Otherwise, what's going to happen? Otherwise, some people will publish fake news. Some people might publish inaccurate applications in terms of healthcare. So to avoid those sort of issues, they have given these sort of guidelines that we need to adhere when we are submitting the applications, right? Moving forward, I'll just go with something like apps designed for kids and families, right? Next. Right. This is where we need to give the legal name, right? Like I said before, this has to be a real person name, maybe your name or whoever the person who's going to manage your account. So make sure to give a legal name over here. And I'll just say, I just put my name and I'll enter my email. I'll just put the same email here as well. And the preferred language. So I'll just say English and contact phone number, right? Interesting thing. So when I was talking to a lot of people during one-to-one sessions, they mentioned me that, okay, for different countries, there can be OTP issues, right? So for some countries, the OTP doesn't come. For some countries, it works. But I'll give you the solution for this, right? So I'll just enter my number over here, right? So I can just give my number. In the future steps, they have OTP verification when you are creating the account, but during the account setup of your Google account, sometimes there can be OTP issues, right? See, one of the requirements is that when you're signing up for a Google Play account, you need to make sure your Google account has the OTP verified, right? So that is a must to have. In case, if the OTP doesn't come to your mobile phone, what you can do is there's a page that you can apply for it manually. So there's something called Google Play Contact. There's a help page that Google has given. So here, if you scroll down, you can see there's an option called Contact Us. So in case if you face some sort of a verification issues of your Google Play account, feel free to go to this page and ask the Google team to help with the verification. They will call you, they will give you a phone call or even a chat message. They will contact you somehow and get the issue resolved from their end, right? So these options are there. I'll send the link again in the chat. So feel free to go through it. And in case if you find some sort of issues when you're signing up, feel free to reach out to them and they will help you out with that also. Right. Okay. Finally, you can, accept to these terms. Make sure you read their privacy policies and the distribution agreement, because usually I know that a lot of people, we agree to the terms without even reading. So I know even personally, when I was getting things started, I used to accept to these guidelines without even reading, right? But here I'm motivating all of you to read these guidelines, because they have this guidelines on how your application has to be built to avoid rejections. Because at the end, they are going to do a manual review and your application has to adhere to all of their guidelines for it to get properly approved. So I recommend all of you to properly read it and understand what sort of guidelines they have provided. So in that way, you can actually avoid these sort of rejections. So I'll anyway share the links with you all as well in the chat. So then later on, you all can try out and see what sort of guidelines they have imposed, and you all can avoid the further rejections as well. All right. So once you do this, in the final step, they will ask you to make a payment of $25. So you can enter your card details, right? So I'm not going to go into that step because that requires a payment. So I already have account, so I'm not going to do the payment again. So you can actually enter your card details. It can be credit card, debit card, or a Amex card or whatever. You can make the payment and you can finalize with the signing up process. Right. So that's up to the Google Play account sign up process. Do we have any questions with regard to that?
In benefit of, let's take all the questions towards the March ending. Let's also go into the publishing part of it. Let's kind of accelerate, and let's get the publishing, and let's get to the whole Q&A aspect.
Sure. Just to recap things, what we discussed, okay. Apple App Store is going to be applications are at, and then Android App Store, the Google Play Store for Android. And then we have, if you all have some sort of a web dashboards or admin dashboards, you all can build as a PWA or some sort of a, like I mentioned in the earlier stage, you can build it using something like Strappy or Contentful, or you can build it as a PWA as well. So let's take the questions at the end of the workshop. Right. Now, the preparations for the publication, right? So these are the requirements that you have in terms of publishing the application, right? So for an example, okay, so you can see, first of all, we should prepare all of these things. The application should have an icon, it should have the screenshots, and it should have the descriptions, right? Let me quickly get into the demonstration. So I'm going to go to my existing Google Play account, which I have already signed up. Right. So I'm going to go to my Google Play account, and you can see there's a section called Create tab. Right. So under the Create tab section, you can give a unique name to your application. Right. So for an example, I'll just say something like this. And then the language of this application. So if the application's language is something in some other language also, that's all right. You can pick that. And then they ask, okay, whether if it's a game or app, I'll just say app, free or paid. If there's any sort of, in-app purchases, or if there's any sort of payment that is required to be given for the application, you need to go with the option of paid. If it's a fully free application, you can go with the option of free. And then finally, accept to these criterias, create app. And then it will take you to the dashboard of the application. So let's wait for a few seconds until that loads. So then we can complete the rest of the process. All right, we are in. So there are multiple steps that are required to be completed for the application to go live. So you can see under the, okay, let me talk about something really important here, right? So Google Play Store, the Google Play Store requires your application to be tested out with 20 developers if it's a personal account. So if your application falls under the category of personal account, you need to test this application with 20 developers at the end of the day, right? If your application is under a corporate account, this is an advantage that you get for a corporate account actually, right? It doesn't require any sort of internal testing of 20 developers. But if it's a personal application, if it's a personal account, you need to test your application with 20 developers for a time span of 2 weeks, right? From the initial draft, right? So at the end, they will let you know, okay, once you do the testing, right, you can find the bugs and issues, and you can keep on releasing new versions, right? So once you do that, they will give you the production approval. You can submit production approval after the completion of 2 weeks with 20 developers. So that's going to be a must for personal accounts. But for corporate account, this doesn't apply. You can straight away go with the production access. That's sorted. Right. So like I said, for the testing, you can actually add testers over here, and those things has to be done for the testing process. And then you can see if you scroll down, there are several things that needs to be done to make your app listing, right? First thing is that the privacy policy. So privacy policy is where you define, okay, how do you collect the data from people? How do you know, how do you process the data, and where do you store the information? What sort of guidelines you are following in order to protect that data, right? Things like that are there. So online, you can actually find out there are a lot of privacy policy generators also. Let me show you. If you make a simple Google search, you can actually find out there are a lot of privacy policy generators. So you can just give the application specification, and you can keep on developing, building the privacy policy that is necessary for your application, right? So these sort of free privacy policy builders are there. So you can at the end of the completion of these steps, you will get a complete privacy policy that you can straight away apply to Google Play or even for Apple App Store. Right. Second thing is the app access, right? So let's say if your application has some sort of a login page, right, that requires a login. So Google doesn't create the account and they test this, right? What they do is basically using your login information, they will log into the application and test the application, right? That's how they are going to review the application manually. So you need to provide a valid login information and the login instructions on how they can properly go through your application and see the functionalities. So that is under the section of app access. So if your application has no login feature, no sign up, you can just ignore that phase. You can skip that phase for now, and you can declare that it doesn't require any sort of login criteria when you're signing up, when you're using this application. So you can declare that also. But if it does require, feel free to provide that. Next part is the ads, right? So we need to declare whether your application has some sort of advertisements, right? So if you're using something like AdMob or some sort of other advertising protocol, maybe meta ads or something like that, you need to declare the application has advertisements in it, right? But don't put false information, because Google will somehow find it out, and at the end they might reject your application as well. So always put the right information, 100% accurate information when you're submitting the application. Fourth thing is the content rating. This is really important if your application is something like educational application targeted towards kids, or maybe if it's something like adults application, right? So depending on the type of the application, you need to define the content rating, right? Whether if it's 18 plus application or a 13 plus application, or an application that applies to all the ages, maybe from ages 4 to above, right? So you need to declare that, okay, what sort of content you have in the application, whether do you have any kind of adult content or any sort of sensitive information, political information, right? So the declaration has to be done properly by answering the questionnaire, and all the criteria has to be met. So that's all about the app content. So by completing this questionnaire, they will automatically give you all a content rating, right? Based on what information you provide, they will give you a content rating. So in most cases, it's going to be 4 plus, which means 4 plus ages. In some cases, it's going to be 13 plus. In some cases, it's going to be 18 plus as well, depending on whatever the content you have in the application. So you have to go through that questionnaire. Let me show you a sample real quick. Let's say if it's a application like this.
Also while you're filling, there's a question from Faisal. You can just keep going, and while answering that, can this information be changed later if we change anything, like advertisements, if they publish an ad later?
Yes, great question. Yeah, definitely. You can actually change any of these criteria, whether if it's a content rating or advertisement later on, but you have to publish that as a separate update, right? So that's going to be the requirement. So whatever the information you change, it goes as a separate update. So you have to keep that in mind as well, because that's a requirement, right? All good?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right. So content rating, like I said before, right? You can answer to all these questions, and at the end of the day, it will give you a content rating, whether if it's 4 plus or 18 plus, 13 plus, depending on whatever the content you have, you get that rating, right? So I'm going to skip that for now. Yeah. So we have another question: if the application is targeting towards children, is there any special things I should consider? Yes, definitely. So the applications that are targeted toward children should not have any sort of external social communications. That means, for an example, it should not have some sort of a social media integration. That should not have something like a unrestricted web access, right? So it has to be very closed application that will give access to the most relevant content that you're providing, right? So you have to mention that, you have to make sure that the application doesn't contain any sort of third-party web access or some sort of let's say unrestricted web access, things like that. So you have to make sure that you are adhering to the guideline properly. It has a well safe as well for kids. Right. So let me move on. Right. The next thing, target audience. This is where I think this is addressing Mr. Faisal's question as well. The target audience. So like I said before, you can define, okay, what is your target audience, whether you are targeting kids or whether you're targeting adults. So depending on the category, you can define, okay, the target audience, what's your target audience. So these kind of things can be defined over here. And then we have the next part, which is, give me a second. Yeah, data safety, right? This is where you declare how you are going to handle the data, whether that's analytics or whether that's something like sensitive information. This is where you can define the data safety of it. And you have to answer the Q&A they have given under the data safety as well. You can mention, okay, what sort of data points you're collecting. Are you collecting the email addresses, usernames, passwords, things like that for analytics purposes? So you can define the data safety under this application process. And at the end, you can declare that that's a requirement that has to be fulfilled. And the next part is financial features. So this applies to both financial applications and healthcare applications, right? Let's say if you're using if you're collecting some sort of credit card informations, or if you're collecting some sort of payment information, maybe if you have payment gateway or IPG in your application, you can definitely declare that, okay, these kind of financial features are there, right? There's a payment gateway involved. So you can declare those kind of things under the financial features, right? So make sure you declare depending on the payment gateway or external payment process that you're using. So you all can declare that as well, right? Just like that. If it's a cryptocurrency wallet or a crypto exchange, right? You can see, right? The type, depending on the type of application, you can declare all of it. And it's just to understand what sort of financial features you are using in the application. So if it's a stock market application, feel free to, depending on the type, you can, you can enter those information. Right. So health, right? Like I said before, you have to be very sensitive when it comes to healthcare applications because it requires the approvals from the medical bodies, right? You need to give the documents from if your application has some sort of a healthcare details, maybe in terms of disease detection or something like healthcare reporting, something like that. You need to get the approvals from the government entities, right? Research institutions, government doctors, right? Government institutions, maybe ministries to get the approval because they have to make sure that your application is 100% safe. That's why they're asking all of this information to avoid misinformation, right? So that's there. I think we have a question from Faisal. Faisal.
Hi, can I answer a question?
Yeah, sure.
Before I need to leave. So I've been talking to a few developers, and they think the 45 days of launching an app, especially with iOS and Google, is very optimistic. Coming from obviously through the program. Now, my understanding there is it takes 10 days for iOS or Google, up to 15 days, I think, for them to approve. So at what point should we be actually completing all of these things? Is it 30 days, 35 days, 25 days? Like, I just want to know how we're going to fit all of this in within the timelines of 45 days. Or is it 45 days to complete the application and then submit to iOS and Google?
Yeah, I think Fawaz can take up this question.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't help because every developer is telling me is to develop any good app is going to take longer than 45 days, or it can be achievable within 45 days with some limitations, but it's still, I think it's the getting the approvals from Apple and Google in case there's any back and forward, then you had to resubmit, wait another 10 days. So I would just like to get an understanding with this.
Faisal, absolutely true. And one of the approach we have engineered this program as Create Apps team as much as possible is one of the reason why we have a roadmap deadline and why we are bringing this particular session as your workshop one, right? And to trying to make sure you go and put your effort in creating the digital assets and the prerequisite, because until you create it by yourself, these are going to be opinions and strategies a developer or Google or somebody else, right? We just want to get your hands on this and creating and choosing, right? And yes, that's one of the reason in roadmap we emphasize choosing one version unless you have a full-fledged team strategized into publishing in both, and we want to make sure you are publishing and coming back on refining your MVP, right? And the features which takes technically heavy. You remember what the Karim CTO was saying, right? In terms of some of those ideation, they have gone just into the market so that they can get feedbacks, iteration, and then that's where it's developed. If you see the development roadmap, so it's the most simplest form of your idea, which is out there. And we want to make sure all of you go through and creating these particular developer accounts, which is in place and ready, number one. Number two, yeah, that is one of the reason if you see from your date of publishing to the end of the program on the original timeline, which is right now, we are heading to the second week of the program, and you have a testing period. The testing period is a compliance by Google and also which helps you to fight these rejections and all of it in advance, right? Only moment you submit to publish is where you're going to get to that phase, right? I totally get it. As an entrepreneur, we have a bigger vision into our ideas and we want to perfect it, but believe the process, and definitely a 45 days roadmap is feasible, and the entire effort of mentorship and this workshop is aligned with that. But trust, get on to your developers, be very strategic, be very clear, get to your roadmap becomes your gang chart, right? Your discussion doesn't start, your scope doesn't start of your idea. The scope starts with what is feasible in 45 days. And these are some of the strategies to make it happen. Hope that answers, Faisal. Yes, Suresh, we'll go on.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great insight for us. All right. Right. So I think most of these concepts that are related to the iOS and Android, I just covered in a nutshell, right? I believe that you all might have a lot of other questions as well, but yeah, I'm happy to answer those questions. But yeah, but let's talk about bit more about the Android track once again, because I believe that 90% of the participants here are developing apps for Android, right? So anyway, like I said before, these are the key criteria that you should meet in order to develop these applications for Android. So these things we discuss in summary. And then we have something called Play Store listing, right? Listing means, for an example, if you go to Google Play Store, you might have seen if you go to applications, right? You might have seen, right, this application title and the screenshots and what's new and the descriptions, right? So all of these things are there, right? So these things needs to be manually provided. So that is why we have the special section to be drafted on your Play Store. So let me quickly show you that also. So you can see, first of all, you need to give the application name, short description, and the full description. So this is where you can find the full information about the application, so that you can find out under all of these sections. And then we have the graphics, right? So the app icon needs to be uploaded just like this, right? So you can see your application. Feel free to properly make a proper icon with an attractive, simplified UI, right? Don't have sort of text in your app icon, because that's not going to be visible to the public. So when you're creating the app icon, make it icon, not a textual logo, right? So try to make it icon all the time, something very attractive, right? Something like this. Yeah, so feel free to do that. And then we have the feature graphics, right? So this surprise when it comes to mobile application. So if you access the Play Store and if you go to particular application, you can see right in the banner we have some kind of banner kind of layout. So that's what which is required from the feature graphic. And then we have the video, right? So for an example, let's say in this application we don't have video, but some applications I have seen in the screenshots area there are videos as well. So you can, if you all have video, a demo video, you all can upload that link here. And finally, we have the screenshots, right? It requires the screenshots to be there in multiple sizes, phone size screenshots, tablet size screenshots, and 10-inch tablets, Chromebook, right? So I know that you all might be thinking how to take all of these screenshots. If I don't have a tablet, how do I take it, right? Along with the Android development toolkit, they have something called Emulator, right? Emulator is actually like a application that you can try out these application different sizes. For if your application is designed towards mobile phones, you can try on that as well. If your application is designed to tablets, you can create a tablet kind of layout on the emulator, and you all can debug on top of that. And you all have to take screenshots of all of these platforms, right? Because at the end of the day, your application has to support the multiple dimensions of devices, right? Because that's a part of the criteria. So you need to take screenshots using the emulator. If you don't have a real device that you can really take the screenshots, use the emulator and take the screenshots and upload it over here. Right? So Chromebook is not needed, right? This is an optional thing. Only the mandatory things, the 10-inch tablet, 7-inch tablet, and the phone screenshots are required at this phase. Right, moving back. Moving back. Then finally, the release, right? So regardless of whatever the development platform you're using, whether if it's a no-code platform or a hybrid approach or a full code approach, depending on, regardless of whatever the platform you're using, at the end of the day, you should export an APK file or AAB file. So what is APK or what is AAB? So APK and AAB is actually the bundle of the Android application, right? For an example, let's say if you're installing an application on your computer, you install with the exe file, right? You double click on the exe file. If it's a Windows computer, you install with the exe file. If you're a Mac user, you're using DMG file to install, right? Just like that, the format, the type of the Android application is called APK or AAB. So both of these extensions allowed. What you can do is at the end, from Adela platform or a Flutter, React Native, Kotlin, whatever the platform you use, make sure you export one of these application in APK or AB type, and you have to upload it under the release section of the application, right? So if you can see under the test and release, we have a place called production. So under the production, you can click on create new release and upload that APK file or the AAB file over here. Right. One more thing that I missed to explain, creating the icons, right? So if you want to generate these app icons with different, device resolutions, iPhone, especially when it comes to iPhones and all, this is a really great tool that you can use. It's app icon generator. So here you can drag and drop whatever the graphic that you're using, and based on that, automatically generates you the app icons that is specific to each platform. So these are a great tool that you all can check out if you want to generate the app icons. I'll just drop the link in the chat as well. So later on, all of you can check it out. Right. So once you publish the application, right after the publication, there are multiple other features that you get allowed to, right? So one is submitting the application that subjects to the approval process. So like I said before, it's a personal account, requires 20 developers. Close testing should be run for a time span of 2 weeks, and the production approval takes somewhere around 3 to 4 days. So during that process, your application will be fully done and dusted, and that goes live to the Play Store, right? So when it comes to iOS, right? When it comes to I'll go to the review timelines that are there. Let me quickly show you that. So yeah, these things I already mentioned. The different tracks we have, and yeah, we'll talk about the timelines, right? So like I said before, Android, the 20 test requirement, But for iOS, sometimes it can, for the maximum duration, it can take about 1 week as well for the review. But sometimes, within 24 hours to 48 hours, they will give you a response, right? But maximum is the maximum. If it's a holiday, if it's a public holiday, something like that, it can go up to 1 week as well, but depending on the time duration it has. But yeah, like Mr. Fawaz mentioned earlier, feel free to submit the application beforehand the deadline, right? Don't wait until the last moment to avoid this
Suresh,
kind of
there's a relevant question I would like to answer
Yes,
it, and before you go,
sure,
will
definitely.
Google or Apple reject our app if we show coming soon features on the app?
Exactly. That's a valid question and valid point as well. What my recommendation is basically, if you have some sort of coming soon features, don't show it there, right? Because they don't want any sort of halfway completed application. The application has to be 100% completed. If you don't have that feature, don't show it as coming soon, because they don't take halfway done applications into consideration when they're publishing, right? So don't include those sort of coming soon or something like that, and halfway done features when you're submitting. Another question, right? So I believe the 45 days roadmap helps. Yeah, I'll take
That's
it
a
first.
feedback. No, that's a feedback, and we are
All right.
talking. Carol has answered about how many days does it take to review, and which you are on it. Go ahead, Suresh.
Sure, Faz. Right. So like I said before, review time is these are the review times that it has. And when it comes to Android, like I said, close testing is the first phase and the production approval is the second phase. It can go up to 1 week as well, or sometimes less, sometimes even 48 hours to 24 hours. So always keep these durations in mind when you're submitting the application. So yeah, and then accordingly all can prepare. And also let me share one more website that you all can check it out, right? So there's a public, like a community forum that you all can try out. There's something called App Review Time. There's a website called App Review Time. I'm not sure if it's still there. It used to be there sometimes back, but right now I don't think, yeah, I think it has been removed. Okay, earlier there used to be a website called App Review Time that you can actually see the average time duration that it takes for the publication. But yeah, these are the generic timestamps anyway. Right. So like I said, always keep this information in mind when you're submitting an application for a publication. And like I said, Android and iOS, it's always subject to a properly comprehensive app review. And they're doing it fully manual. It's done by a human, right? So because of that, we need to make sure that the application is 100% complete. Don't have hidden features. Don't have, don't force information, right? So always keep these informations in mind. And right. So let's talk about some quick tips to understand it better, right? How to avoid these sort of rejections. Let me show you that. For each platform, for Android and iOS, they have some sort of review guidelines. So this is the guideline for iOS. Let me share that in the chat. So you all can go through what sort of expectations that are there in terms of Apple for the application publication. And even for Google Play, they have the developer content policy. So they have mentioned, okay, what sort of content we should not publish and what sort of, what are the best practices. So this guideline has everything that you wanted to mention. So feel free to go through these policies. So then you can avoid these sort of rejections beforehand. So otherwise you don't wait until the last moment. That's going to keep adding more time, right? So don't do that. So yeah, always read these policies beforehand when you're submitting something for the review. Right. Okay. So plan for the review time. So one thing I had to mention, I mentioned that, okay, the close testing for 2 weeks, right? For the close testing review, you can have uncompleted application. That's totally fine for the close testing only, but not for the production access. So during the close testing period, you can fix all your bugs, the coming soon features, or that could be something like a halfway done features. That's totally fine to submit an application for close testing, something which is uncompleted, right? But you have to get it working because the timeline is 2 weeks now, right? So in that case, you have to make sure you submit something for close testing that can be developed, right? So in that case, without making that a time blocker, in the 2 weeks time period also, you can keep on developing more features and fix these bugs, and you can meet the timeline. So I would say always keep a buffer of 2 weeks and then submit something during the 2 weeks time frame. But something means not like a hello world application. It has to be something aligned towards the application. But during the 2 weeks period, you can keep on adding more releases and new features. You can fix the bugs, and at the end, you can submit the fully working application for the production pack. So that is also there. And after the publication, you can look at the user's feedback, which is given in the Google Play Console. Let me show you how it shows real quick. So if you go to the Play Console, you can actually find out the user's feedback. Let me quickly show you that. So it's under the monitor and improve, right? So you can see there's a section called reviews and reach. So here you can actually find out the reports, the fully reports of the application and the user base and ratings and reviews, right? So based on this information, feel free to make the modifications. And I think like Mr. Baba mentioned earlier regarding Karim's use case, right? It's all about understanding the user and what needs to be delivered to the user, right? Understanding from the user's perspective. That's a must to have when it comes to real world publication. So always go with the review time and read these reviews and improve your application after the launch. So that is a must.
All right.
Right.
Let's quickly take it up. And what you remember is make sure we choose a development track. There's no more under discussion after this week, right? No code, full code, hybrid. We have discussed a lot about it. And your week 1 task is all about a strong foundation. You have a 45 days roadmap completed, and you have publishing, understanding, and the account that you need to create, whether it's a business account or a personal account, developer account, all in place. And app review timeline duration is in factored, right? You have to make sure that is there, and to make sure there is all the testing features or testing timeline approaches that we need to take are in place, right? So this is something that you need to make sure to remember, right? There is no absolute chance by next week, like, I mean, we're gonna have tomorrow and day after one-to-one coaching, that we have absolutely no levians about to keep discussing about what to do, right? Let's make sure that we are in place about that. And what's the objective? Publishing focused objective is you have an account set up, whether it's an Apple or developer account, and draft the initial listing info. Now, based on the platform, Suresh has shown us what is the app listing, whether it's icon, screenshots, have an idea, understand what is you have, what you don't have, right? That's very important. And make sure you explore the publishing portals like Google Play Console, App Store Connect. And when I say explore, you are not going to explore Apple Store Connect if you are not intending to publish in Apple this time, right? It's going to be what you are going to publish. And the asset outline, the publishing asset needed for icon and screenshot, just start creating it. Don't wait for the last moment. At least you have the experience of creating it. And even if you want to modify after that, these things are not bug, and this is what is factoring. You remember, Carmen used to ask you a question that, do you have 20 hours a week to invest in this? That's the answer for this question, right? And then we talked about privacy policies, and Suresh showed some tool as well, and to make sure that we have a precise timeline about that, and to make sure you have all these factors reviewed in it. And we are going to be sharing these slides with you. So which means you will have all these helpful resources, which was already shared in linked Apple developer documentation, Android developer documentation, Google Play Console, and the tech guide, and also the framework documentation, which we discussed about React Native and Flutter. Right, so this is going to be just available in this. And to make sure before next week, we have a very important prerequisite. That is what we did today. Your account is set up and you have experienced all the online accounts, developer environment, all is in basic, and the technical aptitude of making sure the digital tools we were exploring, we were looking at, okay, are we going to go Superbase, Firebase, or you're going to use this particular platform for these purposes, all in place, right? We're just going to make sure that we have all of this as a prerequisites, right? Before coming to the next week's workshops, we will have this in place. Only then this will guide to go for our process, right? All right. Before we go into a few more questions, I want to make sure that, yeah, we'll go next. Yes. And again, the basic development understanding. The next week is more about the MVP developmental infrastructures, and make sure that we have chosen all of it and to understand what are the platforms that we need, right? Perfect. And so task specific prerequisite is again to make sure that you have a prioritized MVP feature list if you are using a no code track, and just have a basic justification, not a documentation. Have your own basic justification why you chosen this particular platform, and the confirmation of account setup and the platform exploration, right? And the full code track to make sure you have a very clear user stories and persona profile. What are you creating? What are the users in your system? What type of users? What database you use? What is the technology stack selection you have? And also the development environment you are talking about, right? And this is very important. And if you are on a full code development approach, please make sure you have a repository in place. Same follows with hybrid. Have your user stories and the personas, what type of uh, user types that you do, and the hybrid architected design. If it is a no code, or to make sure what environment you have and all of it, right? So these are your basics, team, right? We are no compromising on this, right? Absolutely. Now let's fire all your questions to make sure if you have any gray areas in publishing, Apple accounts, the Android Play consoles technically, and I saw some of you had already things answered, like most of you were stuck with the phone number validation. Suresh showed you what is the alternative. So likewise, if you have, let's keep bubbling. You have a QR code, and yes, all of you asking for the recording, or it'll come to you for sure. Create Apps team will do its best to have it shared to you. Right. So you have a link which is shared and QR code previously shared, and you have a link out there, and we would like to have all of your questions, and we'll make sure all of that is answered. Yes. Okay. Faisal, hold your thank you. I have a slide for you to thank. Yeah, right. It's all about questions, team. Do you have what questions do you have? I know we went detailed, so there's most of your questions would have been answered. We just want to make sure we save the best. We save a lot of time in the one-to-one mentoring, going very technical, provided these things are answered.
Boss, I think we had the previous question with regard to the architecture,
Yes,
server
please go
architecture.
on. While please go
Kept
on.
it for the end.
Yes.
Right. So let me quickly. First, can you read out for me?
I will do that. I will do that for
Yeah.
you. So the
Yeah.
question was previously given as, let me go to that quickly. Yes, considering the need of feature like, okay, the Karim CTO mentioned server-driven architecture, which allows them to iterate very quickly. Can we have any more information on this?
Right. Okay. So when it comes to developing applications, so this applies to full code track actually. So I just has clear that, because this doesn't apply to any kind of any sort of other tracks. So it's like this. Server-driven architecture is basically like you're providing a resource from the server side. So in server side, we have multiple tiers. There's something called 2-tier architecture. There's something called 3-tier architecture, and there's something called microservices. So I think Karim CTO mentioned that they're using microservices architecture. For an example, let's say think about Uber. For an example, let's think about Karim, right? So they have multiple features. For an example, the driver tracking, and there can be billing, and there can be emailing, right? So these services can be there, but there's a slight chance that there can be error happening at any of these particular features. To avoid that, and to avoid the entire disruption of the backend, what they do is they go with the multi architectures. So which means, okay, sometimes if you go with microservices, that means you are developing a service that is relevant to each feature, not a feature like a sub component, something like, for an example, let's say that could be something like driver tracking, that could be something like billing, that could be something like emailing, right? with respect to each features, you are developing a microservices component. So that can be written with multiple other languages also. It doesn't have to be written with the same programming language. It can be something can be written with Python, something can be done with Java or JavaScript or whatever the language. So this has no functional dependency, right? But the interaction is done via the REST APIs, or maybe through API gateway, maybe through a protocol like gRPC. So it's more like a proper architecture to how you can provide these resources. This applies to a scaling phase actually, right? But at this phase, you all can just follow like a 3T architecture or through 2T architecture when you're building up the MVP. So later on, you all can plan about a proper cloud architecture that is driven on microservices or even RPC servers, things like that. You all can focus on those later. But for these development phases, either you all can follow the 2T architecture or 3T architecture, which has the database connection and the backend and the resource provider, the application, the client server architecture, and 3T as well. So feel free to use that. So yeah.
Great. I think most of the questions were also answered, and I think just to press that particular plus sign on the link that you see already, and you can post any questions which you think that will be useful for you to make it sure. I'm sure the whole session we've been taking question and answering questions. Right. Any other specific questions related to your app, you can unmute and ask as well if you have challenges in typing in. Anyone?
Okay. I'm trying to type, but it's somehow not responding. So I'll just try to just ask this here. It's two questions, but relating to user testing. So for the user testing phase, because I'm a team, we're almost done putting it together, so we're gearing up and ready for testing. So we have to source out live testers or to be provided. That's number one. And the reason why we ask this is because on our platform, we're integrating a payment API in it. So where we get our user testing is very, very important. So do we need to provide a working payment functionality for those testers, or test and simulated flows can suffice?
Right. So it's like this. It's actually very open. It's actually very open kind of testing, right? For an example, let's say there are multiple options you have. You can either form your own testing group, which has 20 users, and perform it, right? What you can do is you can actually at the end, you can make a testing plan. So you might have you seen the testing plan documents? So if you haven't, maybe I can share a template as well later on that you can refer to. So I can make that definitely public. It's actually, so what we do is basically we make a test plan for each feature, right? We break down the features into sub features. For an example, if you take something like login, test the login form, test the forget password, test the sign up form, things like that. We break down all the features into sub components. Like maybe it could be like a Google sheet or something like that, or Excel sheet. We prepare that beforehand, and we list all the test cases and we give it to our user base. So that's one option, right? But if you don't have 20 users to be found out for the testing, there are third-party providers who does that for you for a small cost, maybe somewhere around 40 USD or 50 USD. There are providers who does that for you. So in that case, you don't have to have your 20 users that requires to be tested out. But if you have that paid, I'll recommend you some good paid vendors as well. In the further steps, I'll share that with you all through the Create Tabs team. So then you all can properly reach out to them and you all can get a quote from them and get it done, right? There are providers actually that does it for a small cost, somewhere around $30 to $40, $50, things like that. But you have to anyway give that testing plan, what needs to be tested out, and what are the criteria to be followed when you're testing the application. So that is a must to have.
Okay. We also have a question on the system, right? So it says, would it be advisable to start with an individual developer account initially testing and the user feedback, or should I prioritize setting up a company developer account by obtaining a trade license and completing the necessary legal formalities before publishing the app on iOS and Android platform? Suresh, correct me further, just for me in terms of thinking about looking at a 45 days roadmap. If you don't have a trade license already, the approach is go with a personal development account.
Exactly. That's correct. That's correct for us.
So while you work on those, you can work on your trade license, and later you can convert this to a better business account. Yes, Suresh, we can add technical.
Yeah, so like Fawaz mentioned, okay, it requires all your all your registration documents for the account to be created, right? If you're going under the corporate account category. So to avoid the delays, right, to obtain the trade license and then get the account, I would recommend, if you don't have the registrations already, go with the personal account. As Fawaz has mentioned, it's pretty straightforward in that case. Yeah, because that takes some time actually. Yes.
All right, brilliant. So with benefit of time, and all of us has a lot of things for the takeaway for today, I wanted to make sure if you have any further questions, let's take it up on one-on-one. But team, you're on the second week, 45 days. We are going to nail this. 20, all your apps going to be there. All right, brilliant. Let's move next. Okay, Ayman, yes. See, Ayman got it verified in a few hours. All of us, let's make that effort to do. If you have any further question on the same link, keep publishing. We will address to you. We'll come back to you and we'll make sure your questions are addressed, right? You are reachable to us, right? Let's move next about like define this. How was your experience on the same link? Define how was the experience, or put it on the chat as well to benefit of time. I would love you to put it on the system. Padlet link. Go ahead, put it on link. Define how was the experience today. Just a one word. We're talking about one word. Sum up your experience in one word, and I would love you that on the system. Just a word. Make a mark with a word. All right. Okay, I have it on the chat as well, but okay, please do take your time if you can put it on the Padlet as well. Okay, I see. Amazing, inspired, informative, brilliant, brilliant. Manual, one word. Wow, nice. Overwhelmed, Aisha, brilliant. Right. Oh, I need to know.
Fawaz, sorry
Go
to
ahead,
interject. Yeah,
please.
yes, I have a problem. I haven't been able to submit the roadmap. Remember, I asked you last week, Friday, how should I submit the document and how will I be able to edit? And you showed me on the screen that there is a download option in the left corner. But on my end, it doesn't show at all. There is no download option.
No worries. Immediately after this call, one of the Create App members gonna reach to you and give you the document, and because most of them has submitted back, and we're gonna have that done to you, and we will get in touch with you. All right?
Okay, I really appreciate it.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Brilliant.
cheers.
We are at your reaching distance. Do not worry. All right, brilliant. So I see a lot of inspiration, informed, overwhelmed, and great. Thank you very much. And I can see that we have gone 45 minutes beyond timeline, and almost all of you are just here. So that emphasizes how important it is, and we really wanted to make sure this happens right. So with that greater note, we're gonna take with a brilliant thank you approach, and thank you for making the effort. And it's you are already investing time in your idea to app. That's the first thing that's gonna come up in 45 days. As inspired as starting with Karim, all of your app is gonna be another Karim for another industry, another vertical that you are working. Definitely you are going to be that speaker in some other sessions in some other days to come, right? Because you're going to inspire how you built your app in 45 days. Wishing you all the very best, and thanks to the entire team who have put up this show, bringing the Karim member to you with Create Apps team, brilliant common team, and Suresh and the technical team, and us. You're going to interact on daily basis from tomorrow, hours to hours. So let me not have our face for a long. Wishing you all the very best, and let's have all our app in the app stores or play stores we intend to, and let's have a good wrap up for the iOS and app publishing. And thank you to everyone, and we'll see you guys next week.
Happy learning!